Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, I know we're all here to talk about superintendent, but I have to start with something unrelated, and just because it's going to be filmed, that I guess it came to my attention that as chair, I get emails that I've always thought that the emails that come to me are via Mary, and so if people have written me and I haven't responded, it's because they went to a school committee mailbox that I was unaware of, that I should have been aware of, I guess. So I apologize. I will get access to those emails, and if you've written to me, I usually try and respond. Obviously, it won't be timely for some, but anyway, I just want you to know that I will get access to that mailbox. On Monday, Dr. Diaz submitted his, he asked to withdraw his application for school committee superintendent of schools of Clinton via the MASC. He did not forward a letter, so I have nothing to read to you. So he has withdrawn his application, and that brings us to tonight's meeting. And we have several choices. Mr. Engano has graciously offered, if it was the school committee's choice, he's got 2 more years on his contract, so it would mean he would be willing to stay another year if that's what the committee wanted, and I thank him for making that offer. I know he was looking forward to retiring, but that was a very generous offer on his part. We have 2 candidates that are still out there, and I would like to say, number one, that we thought very highly of all 3 candidates, so I don't think that I think the district will be in good hands. Whatever decision we make tonight, I have faith in that. And obviously, if the committee chooses to stay with Mr. Engano, and we would then have to reopen the search and go through that process again, whether it would be during the coming school year, start right away. Those are really the 3 choices we're faced with. I would like to say, and I think I can speak with the whole board, our interest really is the children of this district. Clearly, I see a lot of teachers here. You have the charge of the most valuable resource in this district, and we're here to support your mission and the mission of the district, and that's what we want to do moving forward. So whatever decision we make, it's really about the children. So I just want you to know that that's where the decision comes from. It's not easy. Nobody has any tea leaves they can read to make this, no matter what happens. So I would open up for discussion.
Robert, just may
Yes.
I clarify just something that you said? I just want the public to know it's not like Mr. Engano would like to continue to bat his head against the wall. I was looking forward to retirement. The option is not, okay, let's rip up my letter and I'll just stay. The option was really, if we go to another search, all right, you can't really do it now. It would have to be a little bit later in the year, and more than likely, if I left, you'd have to hire an interim superintendent anyway for that year.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the choice of the board to go with another search, then that means I would stay for that next year, and we would save some big money in the budget that I'm trying to cut to about $160,000. But it wasn't really 3 options. If you want to go with a new search, I will stay. It's not, I will stay, and anything else.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that.
So I guess that there may be more options. I don't know what the options are. I think that, where we were in this process, and what gives me some measure of comfort and confidence in this process is that while we were, split just in terms of a preference, we were pretty unanimous that the vetting process would continue. And I think that, has served us well, will continue to serve us well. And if we still have two viable options as finalists that are still interested, then I think it is, at least at this stage, worth looking at that.
So, if I could,
Yeah.
we have mentioned that there's two candidates that are still viable options. One of the steps that we talked about doing that didn't happen was to conduct site visits. So I would say that another option for us to consider is to conduct site visits on the two candidates that are left.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
I just want to start off by addressing something that's been bothering me just a little bit. I know that there was some frustration in the community after the circulation of some new information after our last vote, and there's just two quick things I want to say regarding that. One is, I feel confident that the vetting process that Mr. Mendoza and Mr. Bates had in place would have discovered this information in due time. So, while I understand the concerns, I'm not as immersed in the search. You're not as immersed in the search as I am. I just thought it was a little premature to have that to have those that frustration, because I think we eventually would have figured it out. Plus, any frustration that was felt should have been spread along, I think, all 5 committee members, regardless of the candidate that we endorsed. I know Joel and myself endorsed Dr. Meyer, but we were as unaware of this information as anybody else on the committee was, and therefore as deserving of that frustration. And I just think that's important for everyone to understand. That being said, I do want to share my thoughts, hopefully open up a little bit of dialogue. First off, I'm totally in favor of vetting both candidates, and I want to make that clear. My line of thinking is, when I was evaluating the candidates, I listed them in preference from 1 to 3. And I can only assume that everybody on the board did something similar. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Joel and myself's first choice was Dr. Meyer. Robert, Steve, and Mike's first choice was Dr. Diaz. Since that vote, obviously, Dr. Diaz has withdrew as a candidate. So the way I see it, the only way I think we should move forward without a preferred candidate is if Dr. Meyer was the last choice of all the 3 committee members. And, maybe they didn't rank them. Maybe they just chose one and the other were just sidelined. So, I can't speak to that decision-making process, but I would just like to, if possible, open up a dialogue just to see if that is the case. If Dr. Meyer was somebody's original runner-up, then I think we should consider a motion where we select a preferred candidate, same way we did last time. It's just preferred. It's nothing set in stone. That still have to go through the vetting process. Couple reasons I think that, one is just to kind of inform what I would say is a kind of an anxious community, where let you kind of know where our thoughts are at, and before we get in the process of additional vetting, which could last it could last a couple weeks. I don't know. I think it'd be good to let you kind of know where our thoughts are at. And if something pops up, even if we've made a preference, then we just come back to the drawing board like we've already done right now. And lastly, the last thing I just want to say is, we're this close, and I think that we have a genuine shot here to have a genuine 5-0 vote. It's possible, because we like all the candidates we like all the 2 candidates left. So, I know me and Mr. Bates have already made our preference, and I just, before we talk about, going back to square one or rehiring Mr. Engano, and which I appreciate his cooperation with this, I just really think we owe it to explore this opportunity, because I think we're closer than we think, and I think a 5-0 vote would be good. It would really send a sign of confidence to the next superintendent coming in here. So those are my thoughts on it. I think we should take a little bit of time tonight just to kind of just see where we're at, and if everyone is still on the fence of both of them, then, you know, we don't have to have a preferred candidate, but I just think it's worth having a little bit of a discussion about it tonight.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Stephen hasn't spoken yet, so I just want to give him an option.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say, you know, that everybody in this committee has worked really hard to try to do the best thing for the kids of this community, and that's what it's all about. And there was a lot of information on internet and things like that. And some is accurate, some may not be accurate, but everybody here is trying to do the best thing for every child in this district and for every teacher in this district, because we all live here, we all live in this district. So it's not easy to pick a candidate that's going to affect all kinds of lives, potentially could affect all kinds of lives. And one of the questions I ask myself is, if we have two candidates that are potentially left in the pool, so to speak, are they even interested right now because of how the whole process went down? So I would like to know if those candidates are even still interested in the thing. I think we can assume they are, but we don't know that for sure. And once you know that, then you can decide what are the options then. Because, like, I agree with Mr. Duvall, if we want to vet them, that takes a long time to do that, we should at least understand if they're even interested. Because if I wasn't perhaps selected the first time around, I may not be. But that's me. Other people may not be like that. So I believe we need to understand that. And I guess I'm open to all the options. There were good candidates. There were other candidates in the pool that could be brought forward if we needed to do so. I don't necessarily think we should rush a process because, again, it's a process where we have an opportunity to really do great things for this district. So although we need a superintendent, and that's a crucial thing for the leadership aspect of this town and the school system, we need to make sure that we proceed with caution and not rush through things. And that's how, and then we can have that dialogue if we need to, but I think we need to go slowly, understand the process, and just do the best thing for this town. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
So, for the purpose of dialogue, I'm not sure if, demonstrating a preference at this point until we've done that vetting is in either the candidates or the communities or our best interest, because that's why we do the vetting. That's why we call people. That's why we go out to site visits. And I understand that, if we agreed, we're completely unanimous, we still have to do the vetting. And so I think that, where we run into difficulty is this, telegraphing this notion that has to be the person. And I think that, there's still another phase of this process that has to play itself out. So, I guess I'm of two minds on it. I think it's worthwhile, getting a sense of where we are with regard to this process, but I can't definitively say the superintendent has to be, one person or another until we've completed that process and finished where we are with it.
Appreciate that. Do you have any comment?
Just the comment I had is my original thoughts of, I think in order to give this process integrity, I think it's important that if we have two candidates left, before we go any further, before we try to repeat history again, we move forward as far as site visits. We take care of that process, and then after we've done our thorough process, then we come back and make a decision.
Well, my understanding is that Dr. Mosley is a finalist in Hudson, and I don't know if Dr. Meyer is, did anybody, I think I asked Mr. Bates if he would call just to see if
I
he's...
didn't.
Oh, okay. We'll make the assumption he still has an interest in me, but we have not reached out to Dr. Meyer. I guess the question would be what we need to do to set up that. I found that, in terms of the candidates, I thought Dr. Meyer was a very strong presentation, and I think given where we are, I could support his candidacy, and again, dependent on a full site visit and whether we meet with the, his school committee or whoever it is that we would need to meet with, that would be part of that next step. We could do both, but like I said, my understanding is Dr. Mosley is a finalist somewhere else as well, so I'm not sure whether that's even
And again, I just want to come back to that point that preference is one thing, but to go beyond that preference until we've completed that process.
right.
My preference hasn't changed, but until we've completed that process, I just think it's premature to go beyond that.
But, Mr. Chair, if I may, I mean, if we do these background checks, unless it's something monumental, I think, that's discovered, that's going to change all of our minds. I mean, we've been at this search for a while. If we have a preference, I don't really see the problem with expressing that preference. I think I think we've had enough time to see these candidates, and like I said, if something's discovered in this vetting process, it's going to be something big enough that it's most likely going to change all of our minds.
So instead of putting ourselves in a position to jeopardize losing any more candidates, I think it's important that we go and conduct those site visits and that we follow through with that step that we all talked about doing initially when we started the process. I think that, from being an individual who goes out and conducts observations of schools and of staff, that there's a lot to be gained by that. And I feel that we've seen a couple of aspects of the candidates in front of us. And I think that to make a final decision, a thorough decision, I think it's very important for us to see the whole picture, and the whole picture would be conducting site visits.
And background and references and.
Yes.
And site visits are great, but I mean, it's not like are we all going to go on a site visit? I'm assuming it's only going to be one, maybe two people. So I mean,
I'd say-
not everyone's going to get that. We have to do site visits, I agree, but like, not everyone's going to get that experience that one person that goes to do that site visit does.
It can be groups.
I think it can't be more than two, because then
It can be two
Yeah.
together, but it can be
it can't be more than two at a time.
Right.
So two school committee members can do that site visit, because then you don't have a majority of the school committee.
But two could be in one location while the other two, and so anybody interested could be
Yeah.
technically at home.
Mhm. So I guess the question would be, how do we want to go about setting those up? And I guess doing it as expeditiously as we can, so that, and I would say with this, if Dr. Mosley is offered the job where he's a finalist, then we won't obviously visit.
Well, being a finalist and taking a job are two different things.
No,
right?
I understand. I'm just saying, if that happens in between, then I obviously.
Well, it appears that you have to make two phone calls, see if they're interested. I would think they'd both still be interested. And then I think they set up a, kind of a schedule as far as when you go, but you have to set the dates or the times or whatever. And I agree with Mike that maybe, two go to this school and two go to that school, and I think it's good to have two people vet them anyway, rather than just one.
No, two's.
Yeah, and those could be set up. I realize you're all busy, but that would be the best thing to get this thing rolling.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the one thing that I would hope that we could do. This has got to have been an excruciating process for these individuals, and so, the quicker we can do it for our community, the quicker we can do it for them, and get to, get to a thorough understanding of where we want to be, the better off I think we'll be.
Well, I guess, as chair, I will make the phone call. I still have those phone numbers. I will call them. I'll call them this evening. And assuming if both are interested, we will do both. If one is or the other is not, then clearly a site visit's irrelevant. So let me do that, and then I guess the question would be, we have another meeting on Monday, and perhaps we can add that to the agenda as to setting up how to do those visits, but I will have an answer obviously before that, and communicate that. I don't know that we can discuss more.
I think it's the prudent thing to do at this point.
I don't disagree.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I do have a question. So are we saying that we're ruling out the other options of potentially starting to switch over?
I would say, you know what, assuming
Yeah.
that one or both of these candidates are still interested, I don't see any reason that we would go back. I think that it was a lengthy process. I had faith in the process and the finalists that came forward. And so I think that there's really no need to do that at this point.
But to keep it as a fallback position if.
Right, if for some reason something that is not on the table right now happened and both candidates have a job somewhere else, well, then I think we have to go back and
No, that makes sense.
reconvene a search.
So Monday night, we will add it to the agenda that you'll know if they're interested, and then
Yes.
you can do specifics about who's going to go.
And I will
who's gonna
ask
go
them,
where.
I will ask them about, you know, the interest of the committee making a site visit and what they would have to do to make that.
I don't want to lose the point that I think Mr. McIntyre's point was that it literally could be all of us. We just can't be in the same interview at the same time. That so if the site visit was a day in the
Mhm.
district and we went to, two of us went to the elementary school and two of us went to the middle school and one of us went to see the school committee chairperson, there's that possibility as well.
Same
I'm
one
not-
was staggered to two candidates.
Right,
appeared
I'm
on the
not,
same
I'm
day.
not ruling anybody out, I just. like
No,
said-
I just didn't want to lose that point.
Okay. I will entertain that on Monday anyway. So,
Okay.
you know, and people should sort of look at their availability and when we can.
And
do these
everyone
kinds
is
of things.
interested in taking part in the site visit, I hope.
Aye.
That would be good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'll make whatever time available I need to.
Okay. Well, let me, I'll report back from the candidates on Monday. And I appreciate the interest of all you folks here. I know it's a momentous change. Mr. Ngano's done a fine job. He's been here, I think, in that seat for about 8 years.
Something like that.
He's done a good job, and he's brought us quite nicely along. And I think that it's a momentous change. Change is always kind of threatening, no matter who comes in. It's going to mean things would change one way or the other. I'm optimistic. I didn't hear anything that would give me pause in the interviews that we conducted here, and I know you all had the opportunity to meet these candidates, and which I think it was as open a process as we've ever had. I've been on this committee for quite some time, and I think this was we went all out to try and introduce these people beforehand, and so I have faith that whoever sits in that chair will guide us forward in a capable manner. I really do. So we sort of promised a short meeting. It's going to be a short meeting. I don't think there's anything else. We have a tri-council meeting on Monday, and on the agenda obviously will be that information as to, and I will forward that information to the item so that if they are both available or one's available, you'll be able to get that information in a very timely manner, perhaps even this evening. Assuming I get through. If there's nothing else, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much.
What's up?